Good morning and welcome to our April 28th, 2025 regular council meeting. We are going to start off with the open microphone. We don't have anybody registered. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak? Looking for an approval of the agenda, which would include pulling things from the consent agenda. Councillor Nielsen? Councillor Billingsley?
Thank you. For clarification, is now the time to pull things from the correct?
Yep.
Then I would like to pull a couple items. 9.4 Waste Management Bylaw and 9.6 the Encampment Update.
Okay, so we'll vote on the first one, 9.4. Those in favor? Carried. And 9.6, those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Somebody wishing to move the agenda as amended? Councillor Nielsen, those in favor?
Excuse me.
Sorry, go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. Administration would like to add section 24 to closed session, advice from officials related to public art and confidential updates.
Those in favor of adding that to closed session?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Sorry. And moving to approve the agenda as amended. Amended? Councillor Nielsen still willing to make that motion? We amended the amendment. Those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Item 4, adoption of the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Looking for someone to make that motion. Councillor Bronco, those in favor?
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item 6.1, consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Aberley. Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item 9.1, Committee of the Whole, monthly city manager. Oh, sorry, that's on consent agenda. 9.4, Waste Management Bylaw 1980-20. Go ahead, Councillor Billingsley. Or you just want it?
Oh, I'd like the presentation, please.
Okay.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
This report is to provide Council with an overview of proposed Waste Management Bylaw 2084-25. Changes are required to the existing bylaw 1980-20 to clarify waste collection services, including the addition of curbside organics, acceptable materials, and to better outline offenses and penalties. A significant amount of changes have occurred in the updated bylaw, so administration did not provide a red line version, but provided a link to the current bylaw. I won't read through the summary of all the changes. However, I'd like to highlight that some of these were meant to garner discussion and get feedback from council on where the community would like to go with this program, as well as provide administration with tools to be able to apply the services consistently. An example being the multifamily complexes and group homes. Currently, there are some multifamily complexes that participate in garbage and organics collection and others that don't. Administration requires some clarity around how to address these situations, as we've received several calls from complexes wishing to opt out of parts or all of the service due to service constraints and rules around storage, due to space constraints and rules around storage of carts on their property. The current bylaw does not provide the ability to opt out of the service in any capacity. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Councillor Billingsley,
Thank you. Through the chair,
can we accept his information, then we'll get into discussion and questions?
yeah, that's a good point. I move that City Council accepts the Waste Management Bylaw 2084-25 report as information.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. In number 7, offenses and penalties. Penalties, specified penalties for various offenses ranging from $30,000 to $10,000. Is that captured in the fees bylaw, fees and charges bylaw?
It does not. It goes based off of the bylaw enforcement penalties.
And so where would that be documented?
Yeah, on Schedule A.
Okay, so, excuse me, so what I'm wondering then is, has this changed from, like it's noted in the report of changes. Were the penalties, has that changed as well? And if so, who changed the amounts, or who set the amounts, I guess?
The penalties didn't change.
They
It
did
was
not
from
change.
the previous the previous version of the bylaw, so the penalty stayed the same.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you.
Anything else? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
9.6, encampment update.
There, better? Good morning. I was asked to look at these stats regarding encampment costs and takedowns in the city of Wetaskiwin for 2024. So I started a project where I reached out to the RCMP, our enforcement services, fire services, and public works. I'm not sure if you can pull up the PowerPoint. Go. So in researching some data, I'm trying to collate how much the tear-down encampments and different unsheltered cost the city. We looked at time on for encampments, cost of equipment, cost of staff wages, and other items. There's some limitations to data for this report. Fires, we only included fires that were directly linked to encampments. There was a lot of unknown origin fires that we did not include just because we didn't want to make any assumptions on it. Some agencies like AHS, we didn't get their data for this. Same with FCSS, Hope Mission, other local nonprofit groups. So it's just like city contracted services and city employed services that we looked at. So if we go through the PowerPoint, the first one is from enforcement services. It's kind of hard to see, but in the bottom left, there's a little picture of some weapons and stuff we found, including like swords, axes, knives, stuff like that. Just this morning, they're doing encampment cleanups, and we pulled at least 5 of the weapons out of the encampments this morning. So in 2024, we assisted the RCMP 20 times. We patrolled the encampment and sheltered areas over 400 times. Dealt with trespassing over 160 times, loitering over 200 times, as you guys can see. And then total incidents for enforcement services, which is our peace officers and bylaw officers, was over 850 instances dealing directly with unsheltered and encampment. The next slide breaks down the hours. So just the total labor hours for the staff going through. So dealing with trespassing is our highest one. So that'd be trespassing in local businesses, different things like that. And so totaling 275 hours roughly. And for enforcement services, I just started last year, and we only started collecting the data mid-year last year, so these numbers are probably low. In 2025, we'll be collecting the full year's worth of data and have more accurate information. And then the third slide is just our general costs. So we averaged out like wages like per hour for bylaw and peace officer staff. And the cost for enforcement was approximately over $11,000 in labor costs. The next was data from the RCMP. So they dealt with a lot of general files. So those are more just general complaints of loitering, mischief, trespassing, that kind of stuff for unsheltered. They assisted with a few encampment removals. They obviously assist us. We are the primary for encampment removals. That's why our files are a bit higher. And they have a few weapons and drug seized as well. And the same thing, we averaged out their wages and their labor hours in the next slide. So they spent over 1,000 hours dealing with social disorder files in the city of Wetaskiwin last year. And if we look at the labor cost for that, it was over $92,000 roughly for the RCMP costs to deal with directly with encampments and unsheltered. The third group would be Public Works. So Sean's team provided the data for us, so they assisted in several encampment removals, which is their primary role for us. Removal of debris, that kind of stuff. And if you look at the total hours worked, it's almost 150 hours of removal of encampments. Right now, we're not letting unsheltered encampments stay up and get entrenched, so we're taking them down fairly quickly overall, especially if it's on city property or private property. So, and then the cost of that, so they have equipment costs, so the cost of like the machinery they use. So that was over $1,600, and the labor cost is just over $9,500 for them. And then the last one is fire services. So like I said, these are fires directly linked to the encampment areas. Rubbish fires, which is like your garbage fires, they're burning different debris, is 11, and grass brush fires in the area was 5 last year. And so the labor hours are about around 30 hours each. And then the total cost for fire services was around $1,400. So the second last slide, I believe. That one there we go, thank you. So the total equipment cost, just collating everyone's costs together. Equipment for fire, Public Works, everything was over 11,000. Labor cost from everyone, RCMP, all of us, was over 114,000, and over 1,600 labor hours in 2024. And then I just break it down a bit more at the end for if you guys want to see the Public Works and Fire Services, and the last slide is just each individual department. So, and like I said, we'll have more accurate data definitely for 2025 going forward.
Looking for a motion to accept as information. Councillor Billingsley.
So moved. I do have a couple of questions. Thank you. Through the chair, first of all, thank you very much for the report. There's a lot of data here, lots to take in. My questions actually more are in regarding budget and money. And what I'm wondering is, through the chair to, I'm not sure who it would be, I'll just say administration, how are these dollars accounted for? In other words, we have encampment removal of $4,800 and removal, and are those monies actually then moved aside from one department to another? Like how does that money get accounted for, or is this just for a report?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, we had come to council last year letting you know the potential for needing more money based on some of the encampment sizes that we saw out there. We were able to do this all within our operating budget. We did not come back to council and ask for more money. This is just time that we're not doing something else. And so we were asked to report back, which is what this is today. And then we are continuing to monitor this. It is, I would say, other than Public Works, it is a normal part of everybody's workload, and we're just tracking it as requested by council. So if we do need more money, we will come back and ask.
Okay, so that's what I'm wondering is, like, for that $5,000 or $4,900 for label for encampment removal, that is a specific budget item that was set aside for such activity.
There is, so especially enforcement services, fire services, the RCMP, it is part of their job to do this work. The only one that isn't, that has been tapped to come in and help is Public Works. Normally we would hire a contractor, but because we didn't have a budget item for this, Sean's team carved out time to come over and do it. So we are tracking just to know what those in-kind costs are, I guess. There was no specific budget in Sean's area for encampment removal.
Okay, near the end as well, I think it was around $10,000 for equipment through Public Works, $9,550 or thereabouts. Is that money then allocated back to the equipment pool? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, each department has X number of dollars. So if a piece of equipment is used, it gets charged to the equipment pool.
Okay, and then where would that money have been transferred from?
Each department that uses. We're changing our philosophy moving forward, but in the past, each department would estimate how much they needed for equipment each year, and that was part of their budget.
So, okay, so then, as far as time goes, you had said that this fit within the budget that you came to council on. Do we know we will be going into the spring here, into the summer? Are we still on? Will we still be on track?
We will, and I don't think we're going to see those massive ones again if the philosophy is that they tear them down sooner than letting them get entrenched. And again, if we start to go off track where our levels of service are suffering in other areas, we will certainly have that discussion with council ahead of time.
Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair to Sue, just to follow up on Councillor Billingsley. So in the situation of the department that bears the cost of the equipment, in this case, does that mean the money comes from bylaw then? Out of the bylaw budget and goes back into the equipment pool?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, yes, each department has their own equipment pool charges. So if bylaw spent however many hours on equipment, it would get charged to their budget and pay the equipment pool.
Okay, thank you. And then through the chair to Matt, just a couple of questions here. You've indicated on two different slides weapons confiscations, and one time on one incident report it says 10 weapons, and then the second report showed 4 weapons, and then you indicated that most recently five weapons. So why are they broken out into two different categories there?
It's just who seized the weapon. So the first one is from enforcement. So we seized like 10 weapons. The other one with 4 is from the RCMP. So just their reporting of how many weapons they seized.
So bylaw can seize or confiscate weapons?
The peace officers, because it's city property.
Thank you. Can you tell me what happens on a patrol? There's 424 patrols totaling so many hours, 5,000 minutes. How does a patrol work? Like when they log their time, is it from the time they leave the station until they get back, or is it time on site, or what?
It would be time on site. We do have a service level to have interactions with unsheltered and stuff. So we are tracking that. So it's we consider the south end, for example, a hotspot area. So when they enter that south end zone, which is mapped in your GPS area, they start their time patrol. And then in that area, if they interact with anyone, they also document that. And then that all gets reported in our system.
Okay. And so what typically would happen on a patrol? Just, is it a drive through that section of town, or is it?
Yeah, some patrols are proactive. So we have our peace officers, especially our newest peace officers come in, they're tasked to be proactive in that area. So they go down there, they log in their time when they arrive in that zone. They spend some time driving around the zone, so if they see any violations like loitering or drinking in public or anything like that, or new encampments, they'll document that, make contact, document that. If they see people, behind businesses just hanging out doing nothing, they'll interact with them and see what's going on, and then they go from there.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, Matt, is related to the social disorder file and the number of hours and dollars attached to it. Do we have any idea what has happened with those files? For example, out of X number of files, 1,000 hours of work, how many proceed through court or to court, or how many tickets or fines are established, or is it?
I did not ask the RCMP for that information for this report. I'm sure we could, though.
Yeah, I guess somewhere down the line, I'd like to understand the efficiency of 1,000 hours and what transpires from it. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Councilor Bronco.
Is that on top of what we pay him, or is this part of the total amount that we use? Like, we pay so much for services by the RCMP. Would this be considered an extra service, or is it comes out of?
Chair, through the council, it would be within their working budget. We're just tracking the amount of hours out of their standard budget that they're using for this. So it's not in addition to.
Thank you.
Councilor Aberley.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair, to Matt, thank you. I don't know if enjoyed is the word, but I very much appreciated reading through this. And the only question I have was, and I may have missed it, I know that you've said that you didn't begin tracking at the beginning of the year, so how reflective is it? I don't need an exact date, but is it 3/4 of the year? Is it 90%? Does it make sense?
Yeah, Chair, to the council, I started last February, so
Yeah.
we changed our reporting system probably close to the mid-year last year.
That helps, yeah.
To start tracking the council objectives and our service levels.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Matt, for your report. Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering, with all the hours the RCMP are spending on this project, and we lost 4 members, does this enhance our position to try and get those 4 members back?
All of the data and information that we can collect will help plead our case to the minister.
Okay, so the minister is aware of this data then?
Will be, yeah, the next time we get to meet with them. We're still waiting for the information on whether or not they're going to fund those 4 members.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt again, or to administration, do we get any kind of reimbursements from the provincial government for homeless shelters or stuff like this? Or we just eat this ourselves? Is there an amount of money that the provincial government or federal government gives us for the homeless shelters?
I'm not aware of any. I'll defer to Sue.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Bronco, no, the municipalities are expected to handle social disorder as part of their general duties. and we do not receive any money specific to the homeless shelter.
So every time we go out there, we're actually cutting other services in our community due to these encampments, because we're taking money away from projects that we have.
I believe the level of service has always been a part of what we do since I've been here, and I think it's the same with every other municipality.
Thank you.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Aye.
Item 10.1, 2025 residential development incentive.
Over the past year, Wetaskiwin has seen a significant population growth. We estimate that to be 3.6%. Largely, this is due to workforce development programs to attract new residents, as well as the investment in business attraction activities. We've also seen a lot of efforts by the private sector and public sector in recruitment efforts as well, which has diminished the available residential rental properties in particular, but housing is becoming increasingly an issue. So the introduction of a residential development incentive is intended to spur some of the immediate development needs and keep required pace with growth to create measurable short-term results that stimulate further growth and development. We've developed a policy that identifies a $10,000 incentive for each low to medium density home constructed by March 2026 to a maximum of $100,000 allocated by council for this purpose. And we've attached a draft policy as well for your review.
Councillor Blatz.
I move that council approves the residential development incentive policy CO-056, and I have questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, so it's up to $100,000, and under the applicant eligibility, it states that applicants may include private individuals, developers, or contractors. So technically, if a developer comes out and says that he wants to build 10 homes, could that developer take all 100,000 of the incentive?
Potentially they could. We're looking at this policy as issuing of the incentive upon completion of the project and the issue of the occupancy permit. So really, when we look at the timelines for someone to get involved in a project, they need to get moving now, which is the intent of the policy. So it is possible that someone could come and propose that they're going to build 10 homes, and they get to work and they get those 10 homes built in the time frame. So it is possible that one developer could monopolize this incentive over this time period.
Okay, thank you. And so if let's say they build the 10 houses and they only got 3 occupancy permits, then that means they only get $30,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I do have another question. Oh yeah, so under type of dwelling, it was 3.1.9. Secondary suites or additional dwellings on the same lot may be eligible for additional incentives as determined by the city of Wetaskiwin. What does that mean, and what other incentives are there for those?
I think that when we were looking at this with the intention of creating more residential capacity, we try to be as inclusive as possible. Obviously, the intention is more new homes built versus the secondary suites, but try to be open to other possibilities that may exist.
So, like, when it's talking about eligible for additional incentives, does that mean that something outside of this policy or something within this policy?
I think that we'd be nothing additional that the city would initiate, but there may be other incentives that exist through provincial programs.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair. Question to ask you on this development incentive. Would the city have to provide any, like say, services to the property line? If some developer wanted to come in and build 10 homes, but there is no services to those lots, would that fall on us to provide service to that on top of this?
No.
Okay. My other question, we talk about a developer building 10. Would that be 10 property lots, or say a guy, or a developer, I shouldn't say a guy, a developer builds 4 duplexes on one property, because that's one title. Would he be able to get 4 times that $10,000, or just one per, I would just say, lot? Or
I think that's a very good question. When we outline in the policy here, single-family or low-density homes, I think that will be a discussion for council that comes back when the proposals start to come in. Perhaps somebody proposes a 5-unit townhome, which is relatively low density. Now we'll take a look at, are we talking about one project as a property, or are we talking about per door?
yeah.
But I think the very first thing we need to see is, I mean, over the last year, we've had certainly a lot of tire kickers proposing development, and we can think of some commercial as well, where we've seen coming soon signs for the last 5 years, and it's still not coming. So we definitely want to start the conversation and let developers know that this incentive exists, and get them back to the table and get them working.
Thank you.
Councilor Billingsley.
Thank you. Through the chair to Vern, I guess that was one of my questions, was, is it per door or is it per project? And I guess that's something we're going to have to obviously take a look at. My question actually, I know the direction of this was a council-led direction, but I'd like your opinion on this. Do you believe that this $10,000 will help spur demand, or sorry, fill demand, I guess is a better way? In other words, my concern about this is, are we giving away $10,000 for something that may get built anyway? Thoughts?
I think that's a very good question. Certainly, when we look at the conversations that we're having with developers, not simply in residential, but also in commercial and industrial projects, we hear we're very interested in Wetaskiwin and we're very motivated to get started. And these are things that we keep hearing over and over again. But I think what is really critical at this point is the timeline. We know that growth is happening. In particular with the workforce development program, we've endorsed more than 300 candidates. 184 of them are already here living and working in the community, so we still have another 140 inbound. As it relates to our investment attraction with the international entrepreneurs, we have 3 that have already arrived, and we've just received word from the federal government that the next 7 have already been approved. So those 7 families are inbound in the next 6 months. And those are just through these 2 programs. We're also seeing now, because we've been so active, that the inquiries are coming faster and more frequently. So we have, every morning when I come into the office, at least 3 new inquiries from people that maybe already are in Alberta, but now are understanding that Wetaskiwin is really motivated to move at this time. So I believe that it's not a case of whether this development would happen, but it's really about making sure that it's happening in step when we need it to occur.
And I guess that's where I'm struggling with this a little bit, is that you're talking about potential demand, right? In the marketplace, when you add 184 inbound people, they're going to need a place to live. And my concern is that these houses would have to get, people will need a place to live. And would these places get built anyway, whether the $10,000 was given or not? Because the demand is there. The market says And that's my concern. Having said that, the $10,000 per household or per unit is recoverable in a very short amount of time as well, so.
Mr. Aberley?
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Two things, because at first I only had one, but first through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, I totally agree, and I see it as that the houses need to be built, and this is how we get them built now. Like, that if there's tire kickers, they're going to still tire kick. But maybe that is that incentive to be, we need them now because the people are coming. And I know it's potential, but the people are coming. And that's what I liked about the incentive when we were talking about it, is to give that, let's not wait until it's too late. Let's put them there so they can get filled within a year, that there's places, because moving to, as forever ago, but moving into a community and no place to live, the minute they purchase outside of Wetaskiwin, it's so easy not to move into Wetaskiwin. So that's why I liked the incentive, is we need them now, and maybe they aren't occupied, but I have strong confidence that they will, and we will get that money back. So that's all I want to say to that. My second, and what I raised my hand, and it was not a question to Councillor Bronco, but it related from his question, then I got confused. So through the chair to Vern, when he was speaking about, is it, if it's a fourplex as an example, is that 4 units or 1 unit? And then you said that would come back to council. And that's where I now am confused. What comes back to council? Is it not on first come, first serve? Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you considered a duplex may be built on a single family lot, so that would be a single project, so maybe it's not $10,000 per door. But when we start to look at the scope of the projects, then we need to be very careful that we're evaluating it correctly.
So my question to you is to expedite. Is it worth our time to make those decisions before we put the incentive out? Because now, yeah, I think that's it, is then once they start coming in, and then now it has to come back to us to make those decisions. That seems to slow down the process if our goal is to get people in homes in our community as fast as possible.
That's a great question, and definitely when a project has been initiated by council through administration to present back to council, we'll run into these types of questions that don't seem to have an answer from this microphone.
Is that then on us to do so?
My amendment was going to be to clarify.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because as this policy is drafted and we approve it, it should be black and white. It shouldn't have to come back. So my amendment was going to address that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My point exactly is yours.
Okay. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to Vern. Vern, it doesn't matter what type of build it is, right? It can be a modular home or a stick build. That's not definitive in the proposal you're making. So a lot of communities are using modular homes now because they're finding they can put them up much more quickly. Is that correct?
Correct. We haven't stipulated the nature of the home, just the volume of the home.
Thank you.
Anything further? So my amendment is going to be that it includes per door up to a fourplex. Go ahead, Councilor Billingsley.
Thank you. To the amendment, I'm a little concerned of a fourplex, and the reason I say is because that's going to be 2 units, 2 properties, and the money is spent, which I guess in some ways wouldn't be horrible. My question may be to administration on the taxation, in other words, how we recoup the money, is a fourplex, is it taxed upon the complete property of all 4 units on one, or are they all 4 units separately taxed?
It would depend if they're independently owned. I'm taking a stab here. Independently owned as a condo, so that owner would be paying the property tax on it, or if a developer has built a fourplex, owns the entire property, and then it would be based on ownership, or is it based on address?
Good, through the chair to Mayor Gandam, great job.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said great job, Mayor Gandam. With fourplexes, if they have, so title to the land itself is the land. If it's condominiumized and each door has a roll number, that's individual owners. It is taxed individually. In terms of your question, Councillor Billingsley, as to when it is taxed, the land is taxed while it's still land, and at whatever portion of improvement it's at. So if it's built to 20%, the assessor determines the assessed value of the 20%, and they pay taxes up until the completion of the property. However, ownership is a different question. So if it's a fourplex and it's just owned by the one person, one roll number, that is one property, which is why I said great job to Mayor Gandam. It's just one tax notice. However, it really doesn't really matter, right? Because it's the value. So whether it's owned by 5 people or 1, it's just the assessed value that's taxed of that property.
And I guess what I'm trying to get clarification on, and it's really difficult, is the amount of taxation that is brought in on a fourplex versus 4 individual homes.
But then it just depends on the size and the
And that's
the
where it's
assessment on the
difficult,
home.
right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Go ahead, Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. I'm with my colleague here. I see some issues. If we go to a fourplex and it's individual ownership, does that not mean that each ownership will have its own sewer service and garbage service and everything, instead of one per site for title basis? And if we go to a fourplex with 4 ownerships, we would have to supply services to the property line for those 4 buildings, which would be an expense to the city. So I rather see it, my view, one property title, one $10,000 is what we're allowing for it. But if you go to 4 and you have 1 ownership, or if you want to subdivide of ownership, and you have 1 service into that duplex, who pays the water bills for each service? And what if one guy's paying, the other guy ain't paying? It's a catch-22 how we do it.
Sue, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, the servicing, if there's 1 service and it's split off for 4, it doesn't matter. It's all charged on usage. So We are responsible to make sure that the lot is serviceable. That's still not a cost of the city, it's a cost of the developer. And if they want 4 garbage cans or 1 garbage can, they're still paying for that. So the city doesn't have any incurred costs regardless of how many units are on that lot.
So you would have, say you had a fourplex, you would have 4 water valve, or 4 water meters?
Not necessarily. So one service could run into the building and they could have 1 meter that spurs off to the 4, even if they're individually owned. We have condos that have 1 service that comes in.
Understood, but if I was one of those owners of those fourplexes, and let's say you're on holidays for 4 months or 6 months out of the year, your wastewater is going to be divided by 4 people, or your water base is going to be divided by 4 people, whether you use it or not?
It depends on whether or not it's condominiumized. So if it is a strata, then the common area is owned a percentage by each person, and they would likely have individual water meters per unit. If it's a rental, then it's typically just 1. So it really does depend, but it's a user pay system, not, the city doesn't pay anything for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the utilities would be completely different than the development itself. Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify through to Vern, and this is to the amendment as well, but just to make sure, this has nothing to do with low-cost or affordable housing. This is just to provide units as there are people going to be looking for housing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you. This could be a silly question, and I actually don't know who this goes to, so you can say that it's a silly question, but just with this, at the end where it's talking about fourplex, when it's talking about the type of dwelling that is eligible, it says single-family homes, duplexes, or townhomes. Do we need to specify in the policy then that also extends to triplexes and fourplexes at that point?
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz, if it is up to a 4-plex, it would include everything between single family up to a 4-plex. So we would amend it to match the amendment if approved.
Okay, so it would update that part of the policy to include fourplexes?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Billingsley?
No.
Anything further? To the amendment, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And so the other amendment I want to make is on 3.1.9. I would like to take out secondary suites or additional dwellings on the same lot being eligible for additional incentives as determined by the City of Wetaskiwin. Again, I would like this policy as clear as possible, and having some ambiguity, I don't think helps us in the long run. So my amendment would be to remove 3.1.9.
Through the chair, I don't know, when it talks about additional dwellings, was that to be new additional dwellings? Like, in other words, you build a garage and put a suite above it. Is that kind of what the intent of this was, or was this renovating and then adding a suite?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, this was new. A coach home or something like that would be infill, and that's not what this was meant for. It was meant for a new construction on an empty lot.
Thank you.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would speak against the amendment in the fact that we're looking for more space for people to live. If some people have a larger home and it could be renovated so that somebody could move in, I think that would be a positive as well. The way the economy is, this would also help people supplement their income so that they would just be maybe more comfortable. So I think it would be helping in two different ways if we had suites that were allowable. Thank you.
So when I had proposed this during budget, my thought was that this was going to bring in new development. I don't see much of a change in property taxes collected by the city, adding a secondary suite to an existing home, and that's why I wanted to take this piece of it out. Councillor Bronco.
But if,
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I'm just thinking, but if we are trying to house more people, then this incentive might encourage people to make a nice suite in their home, which would just make it easier for people to live in our community.
Absolutely, but the more people we have in the community and not building the tax base is now draining resources without the additional property tax.
Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you. I will be voting in favor of this for one reason. By building another dwelling in a house, the house that's there already has enough parking space for that dwelling. Now, by putting more dwellings in one place, we're packing a can of sardines into one area. The guy in the basement decides, him and his wife, and they have 3 cars. Where are these people all going to park? We got to start looking at and what the neighbors are going to say. It also has to go through development process, but I don't see this funding going towards dwelling in the same residence. So I'm with you, Tyler.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. I too will be supporting this. This is a residential development incentive. What Councillor Elliott speaks about is not untrue, but really this is not what we're discussing in this incentive.
Anything further to the amendment? Those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Anything further? Okay, ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Councillor Blatz.
I move that council directs administration to implement the residential development incentive commencing May 1st, 2025 and concluding by March 31st, 2026 with funding of $100,000 to come from the stabilization reserve.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Item 10.2, special events approval process update.
All right, good morning, Mayor Gandam and members of council. Today I'm here to present proposed updates to the special events policy CO-36 and its supporting procedure CO-36-1. These updates have been a collaborative effort among many city departments with the goal of streamlining the special event approval process for both public and city administration. Administration is also introducing minor amendments to 2 supporting bylaws, business license bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw, to support these improvements. So administration has consistently heard from the public that event approvals are confusing and time-consuming. Internally, the current process is also inefficient. placing a strain on staff across departments like recreation, planning, economic development, fire, enforcement, and public works. Furthermore, responsibilities around in-kind support are unclear, leading to inconsistent responses to community requests. So the proposed updates to the policy and the procedure include clearer language and responsibilities, shorter approval timelines, updated insurance and waiver requirements, simplified vendor licensing, application details removed from the policy and moved into an applicant guide for easier updates and clear guidance, and a new event vendor's license category will be added under the business license bylaw to support group applications. So administration proposes rescinding outdated application forms CO-36-2 and CO-36-3 and replacing them with a more flexible form and guide that can be updated as administration requires. So furthermore, administration also receives many requests for in-kind donations to support special events in our community, such as road closures, table and chair delivery, waste removal, etc. These requests fall outside of the 210 approved hours that Council approved for Canada Day, Taste of Wetaskiwin, and National Day for Truth and Rec. For 2025, administration proposes fulfilling these requests where possible and tracking the actual time and cost. A report summarizing these findings will come back to Council in Q4 of 2025 to support discussions on service levels going forward. That concludes my presentation, and Emily and myself are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councillor Aberle.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. I move that Council approve the amendments to Special Events Policy CO-036. And I'd just like to speak to it. I don't actually have a question. Thank you. Through the chair to administration. This is an excellent example of hearing our community and how to work with them to make things more efficient and be able to continue to have these special events and do great things in this community. And I was really excited when I saw it. So thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you put into this. I just have a question about number 7 that was crossed off. It's the part that speaks to block parties are permitted to operate between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. and cleanup must be provided by 10 p.m. Now that that's out of the policy completely, do we have anything in place, or are we just going with noise bylaws for what hours special events can take place between?
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz, that's correct. It would just be the noise bylaw and also just simplifying language so that a block party would be treated as a special event and they would complete that process and get all the proper approvals.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair. Does special events have a deposit for, let's say, we say cleanup's supposed to be done, this and that? If somebody has a special event and they don't bother to clean up, well, obviously the city will send in its workforce to clean it up. Is there a deposit or a damage deposit that if the site's cleaned or that they get returned? Because if we have our halls we rent out and if it's not clean, the deposit is not returned. Do we have anything in place for special events?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, not currently, but if we experience issues, that is something we could look at, but it hasn't been to date.
I'd like to make an amendment to that. If we could, that we put a $250 deposit for special events, as if there is damage to cleanup, it's always our city staff that go pay for it. Somewhere down the line, somebody has to pay for the cleanup if it's not done. If it's cleaned up, then they get their money done.
Go ahead, Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to council, I have mixed feelings about this, and so I'm going to see if we can come to a compromise. Because I agree with everything you said, except I foresee for many small groups, this would be prohibitive. That a $250 deposit would have to be placed and paid for ahead of time that you then get back. So I know we don't make amendments to amendments, so this is where I'm confused because I can't agree with this amendment. So do I speak to what I think a compromise could be, or do I see if this one goes through?
Make your case for why you wouldn't support this amendment.
I believe, just in general, if this doesn't go through, that a non-deposited check be a part of the event of $250, be a part of the special event application. In the case that if cleanup does not happen, that check gets deposited, but it's not deposited ahead of time. So you're only paying if you need to, and that's because honestly, Councillor Bronco, I think this is prohibitive to the small community activities that happen, to have to do that ahead of time and find that $250. So 100% they're going to clean up because they know that check's going to bounce. Or it's not going to bounce. It's going to come out of their account. That's not what I meant to say, sorry. That's early in the morning. So that's why I'll be voting against this policy, because I do believe it's prohibitive.
In your experience with the events, have we had issues with having to have staff go back and fix, clean up, remediate areas?
To the chair, no, not since my time overseeing special events. We haven't had many concerns. And also, I would just like to mention that we have noticed a lot of people don't have checks anymore. So it's really hard to get someone to leave a check because they actually don't have a checkbook. So I just wanted to say that.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Through the chair, if this amendment is passed, how would that get accounted for? Like, who would take that money? How is this something? Would this be similar if you rented, let's say, by the Lake Park? Is that how? In your
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, yes, we would need to set it up something like our other rental facilities. It would just be different in that there's not really a facility involved. But yeah, we could take a deposit very similar to how we do for those facilities.
Okay, and my concern about a check, if you're writing a check, you better make sure that there's money in that account. And if there's money in the account, then you've got the $250.
I can speak.
Right? So I will be supporting this.
You may have the $250 that is earmarked for something else. So, and again, and I said the bounce the check because there's the NSFs and there's all the things. I look at the types of activities that happen, for example, at Jubilee Park that are small gatherings. And if that small group, whatever their money is unable to afford a $250 deposit, it is going to prohibit them from applying for the special event permit or special event put in the special event application. And now it can just be left as is, because I can show up to Jubilee Park and have an event, and it could just be me saying, this is just me and my family having a picnic here, me and my closest friends doing this. So I like the idea of the policy, and I've tried in my experience to fill it out, because I do think it's a great tool for our organizations that are doing these events. The $250, I cannot, for something that isn't a problem, that hasn't happened, like that isn't a problem, what $250 would even cover? What have they had to do for $250? I can't accept that amount being put forward ahead, because it's going to make more people non-compliant. So, thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, I'm curious about why the $250. Like, where did that figure come to you?
$250. If you look at, we have a special event at Jubilee Park. If you were to fill all those garbage cans and overfill, the cost to pick up all those, transport it to the landfill, that takes time of our staff and things they could be doing. So $250, we pay $500 to rent the by the Lake Park Hall deposit. You get it all back if you clean it. If your intentions are good to keep it, what's the worry? I'm sure when we go do something, we always have to put your MasterCard down to pick up something if you go. So, yes, it could be a lot to a lot of people, but if your intentions are good, what's $250?
Yeah, and I'm not speaking against this at all. I actually agree with you, but I'm not arguing it. I was just curious if there was a reason for the $250. If you think that would cover the full amount, or if you just want to have some cost back.
Let's say we're going to rent the Jubilee Park. If we say $100, why would I want to clean it for $100? It's going to take me more time to do it, to clean up and have our staff and garbage. Why clean it? Let the city do it for $100.
So it's more of an incentive to hold them accountable to make sure that they do what they're supposed to.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. I will speak against this. This policy comes to us as a means to streamline the process, and we've just added another layer to it. And we've added a layer to it when we've been informed by administration there really isn't a reason to add another layer to it. If they had come to us and said, we see existing problems and this is a way to solve it, that would be a different story. I also wonder about the concept of building community. And every time we have an election and people stand up, we all talk about building community. And then we sometimes put roadblocks in place to make building community even more difficult. Building community means bringing people together, and bringing people together means allowing small, large events in our community to happen. And I want to encourage more of that and not less of it. And that's why I will speak against this. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will speak against this as well. Natasha said there has been no problem with sites being left untidy. We are trying to encourage more events in our community, and I think we should be looking at doing that. If a garbage can gets filled, then it gets emptied. On Main Street, we don't charge anybody when the garbage cans along Main Street get full. Somebody goes along and empties them. So I think if we want to encourage our community to be out and about and enjoying each other, this is just a disincentive. Thank you.
Councillor Everly.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to administration. If you were to receive a $250 deposit, would that go towards emptying garbages?
Through the chair to Councillor Aberley, we provide that service. So when someone, say, rents a park, we have garbage cans that are there, but it's never sufficient. So it is a service that we take in kind. We are tracking those things as well. One of the things that we're working on is making sure that we're treating every group the same and providing the same level of service. So we want to keep our park clean, and we don't want the existing garbage cans to overflow, so we do provide extras at no cost.
And thank you, and that was sort of why the question I was asking, because even to support a down payment, if you will, wasn't for items that we're currently tracking to be in kind. I was thinking you have a big party at Jubilee Park and everybody gets rowdy and somehow we lose our steps off of our gazebo. I know it's not called a gazebo. Sorry, you know what I mean, the stage. Things like that. I was thinking a damage deposit, not general everyday tasks. So now I'm speaking even more against the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
That is my concern as well, is it's one thing to, if there's actual damage or not cleaned up, but just because you filled the garbage cans doesn't constitute damage, or that's part of this level of service that we provide. So, and after hearing Councillor Nielsen's thoughts on this, I now will not be supporting this motion.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you. Just a question. So it's not meant for just for garbage pickup, it's for damage. But so let me put a prospect idea. So we go to Jubilee Park, the garbage cans are all full. I'll just hop in my truck, drive away and throw all my garbage on the road. But we supply services to clean up our roads. Why should I get a ticket for loitering?
I see those as two completely...
Well, I don't see it that way. If I'm at the park and the garbage cans are full and I just drive around or get out of the park, put it on the road.
But they're in a garbage can.
But if the garbage can's full, where are you going to put it?
Then if they throw it on the ground, then it's littering and they get a ticket.
But we supply, when the park is full, and the garbage cans, we don't have sufficient, those people who made that event get charged for cleanup.
I don't even know. Okay.
Anything further to the amendment? Councillor Blatz.
Councillor Nielsen also swayed me. But it was also a matter of, I think I wasn't understanding fully about what we provide in kind, and so now I understand a little bit more. So thank you.
Okay, so this is for the amendment. Those in favor? Opposed? Defeated.
Aye.
Okay, back to the original motion. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a question to presenters. From a time perspective, what do you envision saving time-wise in terms of the process, the way it was before versus how it should occur now?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, that's a really great question. I guess I haven't really thought to put a time to it. I think a lot of what you're saving too is frustration, like going back and forth with the event applicant and then talking with my fellow colleagues in planning and fire about what we need to see. That was just not very clear before, so I just think it's going to save a lot of frustration, and it's going to make people more willing to fill out the special event application and work with us rather than just having events without letting us know.
Thank you.
Ready for the question? Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. There's motions 2 and 3 if we'd like.
I didn't hear that.
There are 2 other motions.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. That's on me. I move that council rescind the special event application CO-36036-2 and block party application CO-036-3.
Moved by Councillor Aberle. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And I move that council direct administration to fulfill and track requests for in-kind event support and provide a report in Q4 2025.
Moved by Councillor Aberle. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just through to the presenters, all of this can be done online, correct? It doesn't have to be done in person? All the application, filling out all the applications and things?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, yes, that is, it's not currently, but now that it's approved, we'll make it PDF fillable. People can fill it out online and then send it in.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're ready for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. We're going to take a 14-minute break.
Thank you.
welcome back. We're going to get into bylaws. 12.1, 2025 Property Tax Bylaw 2089-25.
Good morning, Council.
Committee reports, consent agenda. Go ahead, yep.
The 2025 Property Tax Rate Bylaw, Bylaw number 2089, is hereby presented for Council. This year, we had a new assessment class for our properties. We had 7 mature area derelict properties that were assessed for a total of $539,800. These properties will be, taxes on these properties will be levied at the non-residential tax rate per bylaw 2052-24. The taxation revenue estimate required for municipal operations in 2025 is $20,517,450. During the 2025 budget deliberations, Council estimated a municipal property tax rate increase of 5.97%, which has been used in preparing the property tax rate bylaw for 2025. However, I'd like to note that to cover the required municipal property tax revenue, a tax rate increase of 4.16% is what is required. Using the estimated tax rate increase of 5.97% generates additional taxation revenue of $356,788. I'll now move on to the bylaw itself. The property tax bylaw notices, the property tax notices that will be sent out by the municipality will include not just the municipal property tax levy, but also requisitions from the Alberta School Foundation Fund, the separate school division, the Seniors Foundation, and the designated industrial property requisition. I will now go over the rates. Again, the municipal property tax rate is based on the 5.97% estimated during the 2025 budget deliberations. The tax rate for residential property based on $1,000 of assessment is 0.0113409. For non-residential, which includes mature area derelict residential properties, is 0.0226818. And the school board requisitions, which applies to both the Alberta School Foundation Fund and the separate school division, is 0.0026369 for residential and farmland, and 0.0039873 for non-residential properties. The Seniors Foundation rate is 0.0001984. This requisition is from the Wetaskiwin and Area Lodge Authority. And finally, for designated industrial properties, the assessment for these properties is completed by the province. The tax rate for this requisition is 0.0000701. Thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
Move that City Council give first reading to the 2025 tax rate bylaw 2089-25. And I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to talk about the education property tax requisition, just so that then people understand that this year there was a massive jump for the residential requisition that the city collects on behalf of the province, and that's mandatory. We have no way to opt out of that. There was a 10% increase this year, so I just wanted to note that when you get your property tax bills, that is not on the city, that is from the province. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Through the chair to Lou. Item 5, the historical tax rates, and I guess also to our fellow councillors. This is the highest tax rate and has continued to grow over the last 5 years. In 2017, we went from 9.0886 currently to 10.7020. which is alarming to me. But my question to Toulouse is, in 2024, we have 10.7 as non-residential, residential, and 21.4040 for non. The school portions, compared to last year, those rates have actually gone down, and yet in the our portion, of the taxation portion, has gone up. What can you attribute that to? Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Just need a minute.
Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, the school tax rate has not gone down. In 2024, it was 2.4292 for res and 3.7706 for non-res.
Correct.
It is in 2025, this year, it will be that comparative number is 2.6369.
But I'm just looking at 24 versus 23.
Oh, okay.
Right? In that we went from, if you look, that we've increased both our portion, the taxation portions, but yet the school portion has gone down, and yet the school portion has gone down. Why is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, I would have to review equalized assessment because, as you're aware, the tax rate is the tax rate that we set for the education portion of property taxes is based on equalized assessment, and then the requisition is sent in from the province. So the rate is just set by us. Also, based on information received from the province, they held the line last year, and you will notice that when you look at years prior to that as well, that the increase, there are multiple years where there's increases and then it drops. So if you look at 2020, for example, and 2021, it was 2.56, then it dropped in 2022 to 2.51. So this would be the only reason that I can attribute to this would be equalized, what's considered equalized assessment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further? We're ready for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that City Council give second reading to the 2025 tax rate bylaw 2089-25.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that City Council give unanimous consent to go to third reading of 2025 tax rate bylaw 2089-25.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? We're ready for the
Mr.
question.
Mayor,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry for interrupting, but is there anything going to be done with the derelict properties? I know that there's something pending, but we have this number of derelict properties that nothing seems to be happening with them.
Go ahead, Toulouse.
Through the chair to Councillor Hilliard, of the 7 properties that are in the mature area derelict property category, we have 3 of them that have pulled demolition permits. So I anticipate that those individuals intend to demolish those properties, and then the taxation on the land that's left behind will go back to residential. However, at the time that the inspections were done, this had not been completed, so they remained as mature area derelict properties in the current year.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to give unanimous consent to go to third reading. Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council give third and final reading to the 2025 tax rate bylaw 2089-25.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? Ready for the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. 12.2, amendments to business license bylaw 1507-01 and fees and charges bylaw 2073-24 to create an event vendor's license.
Good morning, members. Oops.
Good
This is
morning.
on? It is on. Great. Good morning, members of council. Earlier in this meeting, you heard a presentation related to proposed updates to the special events policy and procedure aimed at clarifying and streamlining the application process for all involved. This item is to present amendments to the business license bylaw and fees and charges bylaw that help implement these policy and procedure updates. The amendments are summarized in the red line in attachment 2 and include clarifying definitions and license requirements and adding a new class of event vendor's license that could be used by an event organizer to streamline business licensing. With that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you. I move that council give first reading to bylaw 2090-25.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Go ahead. Nothing? Sorry, I'm trying to find it. I did have a question and it was... So for a temporary mobile vendor, it was $100?
Through the chair to council, there's a few different categories. Some of them have not changed, and then the new one is an event vendor's license. So the ones that have not changed are the mobile retail vendor and a mobile food vendor. One of which sells goods, the other of which sells food. The new class is an event vendor's license that could only be used for retail vendors simply because we have additional fire inspection requirements for mobile food vendors.
Perfect. Okay, that clears it up. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to Emily. Emily, does the health department get involved with any of this when we're distributing these business licenses?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, they don't get involved with the business licensing side. They do have some involvement with other permits, which I will defer to Natasha for details on those.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Elliott, yeah, for events that have food involved, they do have to get approval through AHS, and that's a separate application process than the cities.
Thank you. So how are those coordinated? Like, how does the city wait for the health unit to give approval, or vice versa?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, so the information about how to contact AHS and a link to their application is on our applicant guide, and then they would do that, and then once that's received, we would approve their application.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ready for the question? Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw 2091-25.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Councillor Blatz.
There's an error in this that should say, like, shouldn't that say second reading?
Second
Because,
reading.
yeah, we already did first reading.
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz.
Oh, it's a different...
Oh, it's a different number.
It is
Never
correct.
mind.
There's a separate bylaw for business license, separate bylaw for fees and charges, and then a motion for a public hearing.
Thank you. Everybody's confusing me this morning.
We're creatures of habit.
Okay. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
I move that council direct administration to schedule a public hearing for bylaw 2090-25 and 2091-25 at the May 12th, 2025 regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Looking for a motion to go into closed session under section 24.
So moved.
Councillor Billingsley, those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to come out of closed session. Councilor Bronco, those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Sue, do we have to change the section of what we went into closed session for? Or is it still under 24, advice from officials?
Through the chair, it is still section 24, but the removal of the public art, I was mistaken, that is coming at the next closed session.
Perfect. Thank you. Item 15, new business. 2025 tax recovery reserve bid.
Hello again, Council. The purpose of this RFD is to set the 2025 public auction terms and conditions of sale for an auction of properties to be held at 10 a.m. on September 23rd, 2025, here in Council Chambers. There are currently 13 properties with land and six designated manufactured homes to be offered for sale at the 2025 municipal tax auction. These are properties with property tax arrears over the last 3 years. So it takes a 3-year period before a property is actually offered for sale. I will now read the conditions into record for the public. The conditions of the sale are as follows. 10% of the payment of 10% non-refundable down payment by cash, bank draft, or certified payment on the auction date, which is September 23rd, 2025. Full payment is to be made within 30 days following the auction date by bank draft or certified check. Each parcel will be offered for sale subject to a reserve bid and to the reservations and conditions contained in the existing certificate of title. The land is being offered for sale on an as-is, where-is basis, and the City of Wetaskiwin makes no representation and gives no warranty whatsoever as to the adequacy of services, soil conditions, land use districting, building and development conditions, absence or presence of environmental contamination, or the developability of the subject land for any intended use by the purchaser. The purchaser is responsible for obtaining vacant possession. All bidders or their agents must be present at the public auction. No bid will be accepted where the bidder attempts to attach conditions precedent to the sale of any parcel. No terms and conditions of sale will be considered other than those specified by the City of Wetaskiwin. No further information is available at the auction regarding the lands to be sold. The City of Wetaskiwin may, after the public auction, become the owner of any parcel of land not sold at the public auction. The terms are cash or certified check due at the time of the sale. GST will apply to all land sales. Redemption may be affected by payment of all arrears of taxes and costs at any time prior to the sale. The roll numbers that are to be offered for sale with properties that have that are on land are as follows. Roll 120040. The reserve bid, which is set at the current assessed value for 2025, is 110,600. Roll number 120060. Reserve bid is 76,400. Roll number 120730. Reserve bid 51,600. Roll number 170730. 186,400. Roll number 180570, 78,900. Roll number 181680, 261,300. Roll number 210420, 116,000. Roll number 211300, 105,900. Roll number 281990, 261,700. Roll number 302360. Reserve bid is set at 229,500. Roll number 302660. Reserve bid is set at 335,500. Roll number 303300. Reserve bid is set at 66,400. Roll number 303520, reserve bid of 34,800. These are all properties with land. We also have six designated manufactured homes that will be offered for sale, and the roll numbers are 190640, 190940, 191 140, 202 700, 202 860, and 202 890. These properties will be offered for sale at the auction if payments are not received in full prior to the public auction. We are in discussions already with a lot of these property owners and are still trying to encourage them entering into tax arrears agreements with the municipality to avoid the sale of their properties. On the auction date itself, any properties where we've received payment that are in a tax arrears agreement with the municipality or who have made all payments and are current per the Municipal Government Act will be removed from the auction list.
Councillor Blatz.
Move that City Council approves the 2025 tax recovery sale, reserve bids, and terms and conditions of sale. And I have a question.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Go ahead.
Thank you. So for roll 1240, the reserve bid amount is 110,600. And then when you scroll down to see the arrears amount, it's 317,000. How does it get that far? Like, how is the outstanding arrears 317,000? Have we tried to sell this property before in our property sales and it just hasn't sold, or is it, how did it go this far?
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz, it's two roll numbers on this, and I can give you the two roll numbers where they were involved in a fire. And it was the cost of the fire, the call out, which exceeded over $73,000. That's why the unpaid costs relating to the fire was transferred to the tax roll.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Any further? Yep. Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair to Toulouse, can you remind me, in the event that people don't make arrangements prior to the tax sale and the property doesn't sell, where does that leave us in respect to all of these penalties, arrears?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, the receivable, so the property taxes receivable stays on our books because we haven't received the funds. Council, if these arrears are not paid, Council also has the option of taking title to these properties, which we have done in the past. And then we went ahead and listed those properties for sale with a realtor. I think we've sold one of the properties that were listed based on the 2021 motion of council, either 2021 or 2022. I think we listed about 8 properties, 1 has sold so far. So there's that option. There's also the option where if the municipality takes title to the property and the homeowner doesn't challenge it for either 10 or 15 years, sorry, I have to double check my knowledge here, where automatically the property belongs to the municipality. One thing that I do want to note is once the municipality takes title to the property, we cannot levy municipal taxes anymore. That's just per the Municipal Government Act, but those are the options that are available to council. If the homeowners do not pay those property taxes, it goes to auction, doesn't sell, those are the options that are then available.
Thank you.
Oh, I do apologize, Councillor Billingsley did not hear me. Which part would you like me to repeat, sir?
No, and my next question is, it indicates in the document that the current owner can enter into a tax arrears program to be paid out within 3 years. So what happens if they enter into a payment plan and then default? Do we have to wait a prescribed amount of time before it can go back to auction, or can you initiate action sooner?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, the minute that they default, we can sell their property, sir.
I'm sorry?
The minute that they default on the agreement, we do not have to wait till a subsequent auction. We can auction off their property.
Great, thank you very much.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Toulouse. Toulouse, once we take over the property, sometimes the people are still living there. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Hilliard, yes, that's correct.
So if we take over the house or their property, do we evict them or do we charge them rent or what do we do?
Through the chair to Councillor Hilliard, we can charge rent if they want to, if they're willing to pay it. Also, we can apply to the Court of Queen's Bench. We can apply to the courts to have them evicted. It is not a quick process, but that is available to us under the Act.
Thank you. And further to that, are any of these properties listed? Are they part of our derelict homes list?
Through the chair to Councillor Hilliard, no, none of the ones that are being that are on this auction list are part of a mature area derelict property.
Thank you very much, Toulouse. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Toulouse, so are these housing, is there people living in them now?
Through the chair to Councillor Branco, I cannot confirm that at this minute.
Thank you.
Any further? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item 15.2, tax levy and penalty cancellation request, tax roll 190690.
Administration has received a tax levy and penalty cancellation request for tax roll 190690. This property is a designated manufactured home in the municipality. Subsequent to 2019, this property has been assessed at $0. Our understanding is that it is not livable, and the the owners of the park have applied to council to waive the taxes and penalties on this property so that they can go ahead with demolishing and removing it from the manufactured home community. The total taxes and penalties that is required to be waived is $9,919.91.
Councilor Aberley.
Thank you. I move that City Council accepts the request to cancel the unpaid tax levies and associated late payment penalties on tax roll 190690 of $9,919.91.
Moved by Councilor Aberley. Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you. So the property that this mobile home sits on, is that owned by the mobile home community park, or was it privately owned by the person who had the unit on that property?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, the unit was owned by the owner of the property, not the park. However, it's been abandoned for several years.
No, the unit was, but what about the land it sits on?
The land is still, a mobile home park is owned by one person.
Okay, thank you. I'm really struggling with this one because on the one hand, I'm trying to draw a comparison to me having an outbuilding on my property that's run into disrepair, and I move off the property and leave everything as a mess, but I'm expecting someone else to come in and look after it behind me. This property is owned by the mobile park. Isn't it their responsibility?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, this unit is not owned by the mobile home park. The land is owned by the mobile home park. The unit is not livable and has been abandoned and sitting on the property for years. They cannot collect rent from it either. Going into next year, we have a new bylaw effective January 1st, 2026, where the assessed person for all of our designated manufactured home parks is the park owner. So even when we go to that, there's no property tax revenue from this unit. It'll be zero because it's assessed at zero. And the mobile home community wants to destroy it and remove it so that they can have another unit come to sit on that piece of land. Hence this request.
Why is it our problem?
Because the taxes were levied by us. If we do nothing, that abandoned property stays there. There's still going to be it's still going to be assessed at zero. It would just sit there. It would, and this dollars would sit on our ledger as well. It's not going to continue to grow, with the exception of penalties, because we're not levying any more taxes on it because it's assessed at zero.
But somebody's operating a business. They didn't deal with that property. They didn't deal with the person who is renting or leasing that spot. So now it sits vacant because they haven't dealt with it. It's now our responsibility to waive property taxes and penalties. Like, why haven't they been able to deal with this up until now?
Through the chair to council, I think part of the confusion is that, and I had actually forgotten about this until Tulu reminded me last week. So in previous years up to including this year, in mobile home parks, the owner of the unit was responsible for the taxes. In future years, the mobile home park will be the one responsible. So right now, they're left with this, but not responsible for the taxes. And I'm not sure on whether or not we could send this to collections, because this is it's hard with mobile homes because they're vehicles, and so they're registered with registry, not necessarily land titles. And so it's a little bit different here. The mobile home park doesn't owe us anything right now. They're just looking to get this space cleared away so that in 2026, when they are responsible for all of that lot, they can actually have money coming in to help pay for the taxes for the entire site. So right now, if there is no opportunity to go after the mobile owner, it won't be the mobile home park's responsibility. They're just going to be stuck with a bill that they were not responsible for. Does that make sense?
I still don't understand why that's our responsibility for that to happen. Why is the mobile park owner requesting the cancellation if they don't have a responsibility to it, other than they just want to fill that spot? Why can this not go through the tax, like our tax sale program? Why aren't we removing the mobile home and continuing to go after the people who actually owe the taxes? I don't think your mic's on.
My mic's off. There's nothing to sell.
That's fine. I appreciate that, but why? I don't understand why the mobile park owner is asking for the tax cancellation other than them being able to fill it. If that's all it is, if we're canceling it, who has the responsibility of moving that trailer off that lot?
Through the chair to Councillor Gandam, in discussions with them, their intent is to have that removed because it's been abandoned.
But why does that have any impact on whether or not we cancel taxes or the penalties?
Well, they're not supposed to touch. They're supposed to obtain a permit before you destroy or remove a mobile home. So in this case, even if they apply for a permit, we would let them know there's outstanding taxes. So it'd be similar to trying to destroy a home that owes taxes, and we can collect it against the property. The amount outstanding, the taxes outstanding, is still on that unit. So it's important that they know that it's whole before they destroy it.
I also think that it's uncollectible. So if we cannot go after the owner because it was a mobile home and not land, we have no avenue to go after them for the taxes. The mobile home park is not legally responsible because they were not responsible for the previous taxes before 2026. So we actually have no one to go after for this.
Have we made an attempt to send this to collections?
We have not made an attempt to send this particular one to collections because normally with property taxes, you recover against the property. Collections is not the normal route. We will speak to municipal affairs to see what other routes are available when it comes to designated manufactured homes. Normally, we would sell the property similar to the ones
No,
that
I
came on the
appreciate that.
auction list.
I'm struggling with this in that it's been owed for 5 years or going on 6 years. It's non-habitable. It's not the mobile park's responsibility, but we're just dealing with this now and going to cancel this without an attempt made to send this to collections or to pursue the amount that's outstanding.
Through the chair to Councillor Gandam, we have not been able to reach anyone that has title to this property, whether to pay, to enter into an agreement, and we've made several calls. We cannot trace the owner.
So can we, if that's the case and it's outstanding, there's an outstanding amount, instead of canceling the taxes, can we grant the permit for them to remove the trailer and carry on with that still being owed, as opposed to canceling the tax and the mobile park still being able to go and fill that space? Is your mic on?
Yes, I could revisit the hack to make sure that we can do that, but that receivable stays on our ledger too, and every time that we show it on our books, we would still back it out because we know it's uncollectible.
Oh. Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. I too think that we should exhaust every option of trying to collect this money, whatever that may be. But I think it's also important that this trailer is removed from the property. I'm not in favor of just forgiving the $9,900 amount that is owed. The good news is, come January 1st of next year, in theory, we shouldn't run into this type of situation again because the taxes will be on the land as opposed to the trailers themselves. Because the way it's set up now, we run into situations just as this. Having said that, I think it's really important that we exhaust every avenue to try and collect this $9,900. And if we need to give a permit for them to remove it, so be it. And then from there, let's try and collect this money, whatever it means that may be. And
Councillor Nielsen.
I guess the difficulty I'm having is that we're being asked to eat $9,000. So the mobile home park can make an improvement on their property. And I guess I believe if they want to make an improvement on the property, they may want to pay a portion of this tax bill so they can make an improvement on their property. I guess I would agree in some respects that they've had this derelict building on their property for a period of time and have not done anything up until this point to try and rectify what is a dangerous, what they call a dangerous situation in their own park. I would like to see us attempt to get some money out of the park to make, so they can make their improvement.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you. I'm really confused. One, Jubilee Park, that's a private identity, correct? So it's roads and service are supplied, maintained by Jubilee Park. So it sounds kind of odd that he has to pay the taxes this year, but next year the land is still owned by Jubilee Park. So he's going to pay the taxes on that land whether that building's there or not. It's still Jubilee Park's land. No, di-
It's legislative changes, though. That's the
Okay.
difference.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna go pay for it, add it on to the tax property, but I don't, I'm against giving them any tax break at all. That's a tax, goes on the land. That's private property.
But that's not how it's legislated. That's not how they do the property tax, which is why that change is being made. And so I don't think it's fair that the mobile home park would be responsible for those taxes. I'm not really happy with how it's been handled over those 5 years, and without having the backstory on what's been done to collect that or to move that trailer, I don't think the responsibility comes to the park owners. I just don't think I want to be canceling taxes and penalties without exhausting some kind of effort to collect taxes and penalties.
So if I may, Tyler, so this tax is based on the structure, not the land.
Correct.
So when that owner of that trailer was there, he paid a percentage of taxes to pay for the land. Because that's their property, they get taxed all. That the taxes we're collecting is on the structure of the trailer.
And that goes directly to the owner?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, you're referring to taxes on the unit?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, that tax notice goes to the owner of the unit.
So then the park would pay?
The land is paid by
but the
Jubilee.
park pays overall property taxes as well?
For the land,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's two separate things, which is why I think there's legislative changes to how property taxes are collected by a municipality. So I will not vote in favor of this and would provide a subsequent motion in directing administration to find a way to have the trailer removed so that the park can carry on, but also exhausting resources to collect the $9,900. Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair to administration, at what point do unpaid taxes simply get written off?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, there's no mention of a point in time in the Act. Council just has authority to waive taxes and penalties. There is no specified time period in the MGA to do so.
But we can't possibly carry arrears for 100 years on a single property.
Ideally, we shouldn't, but the receivables can stay on the books for as long as, however, when the financial statements are prepared,
No.
it'll show that it's uncollectible.
I guess the question I'm asking, then badly asking, is at what point does administration make recommendations to council that we start writing off bad debt?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, when we have extenuating circumstances, because the Act provides avenue for tax recovery, we follow those steps first, similar to what we've presented today to have an auction. Those properties might not sell, then we come back with the next set of action to ensure. However, say a property doesn't sell, it's 10 years, it reverts to the organization and to the municipality can sell it. However, when we have circumstances similar to this, or where there's a fire or an abandoned property or not being able to contact the owner, we would provide avenues of how to recover the funds. Or if there's no other way, then we have to recommend to council to consider waiving or writing off the taxes.
So at what point, if the suggestion that we not waive the taxes is made, how long before you would bring it back? Because I'm assuming you've already taken steps to try and claim those back taxes.
Just Chair to Councillor Nielsen, that is correct.
So will you attempt to keep attempting to collect on this property? And if so, how long before you say enough is enough and make a recommendation back to this group?
Through the chair to Councillor Nelson, we do not have a specific timeline. This is not normal circumstances. This is not our norm. where we have a person. So if council decides not to write off these taxes, which is fine, we will continue to send out arrears letters, even though we know that the person isn't going to get it. We will send it out. We do not have a contact number. It's been abandoned for years. We cannot send it to collections because property taxes is levied against the property, not a person. So we would just try and see if there's any other alternative routes and report back to council on whatever information that we can find.
Correct me if my assumption is wrong. We will continue to send out letters to somebody we don't know how to get hold of until such time as we make a determination that we've exhausted all our efforts. Sue? I just wonder, are we simply chasing our tail for the purposes of
Exactly.
We are.
appearance?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, what I suggest that we do is we'll contact Municipal Affairs just to confirm that there are no other options, and then we will bring it back to council at the end of May to let you know that there are no other options and that this should be either written off or we can continue to try and track this person down. If we're not able to send it to collections, we have no other way. Although there is a clause, it's hard because they're not a property owner. There is a clause in the MGA that allows us to put a lien on any property that they own, but if it's through registries, like a vehicle like this, it could be hard to try and track that down. So we'll look for any avenues that the Municipal Affairs can give us, and if not, we'll report back.
Thank you.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regardless of that, is there a way we can expedite the demolition? Assist the people with the expediting that?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, I would advise against that in case Municipal Affairs has some sort of avenue. We should not jump the gun without direction from them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bronco?
Thank you. Just a thought. If we were to write off that property tax and they own zilch, would that mean Jubilee Park owner would have to remove the trailer?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, that's what they've offered us in the letter that they've written to us, that they want to demolish and remove. Thank you.
So hypothetically, we get the trailer assessed and it's assessed at $3,000. There's something there, let's say it's $3,000, and the city destroys the trailer, and the owner comes back and says, hey, you destroyed my trailer. So then we'll say, okay, fine. It was valued at $3,000, you owe us $9,900, give us $6,900, and we'll call it good. Like, I don't know why we have to pander to people who don't follow the rules, and we have to follow the rules. That was rhetorical, you don't have to answer that. I'm just...
Why do we have to follow rules, darn it?
Okay. To the motion. Canceling tax levies associated with payment penalties on tax roll 190,690 of $9,919.91. Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair to Sue. If you were going to go back to Municipal Affairs to find out what options are, should this not be tabled then?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, it can be. We could bring it back on May 26th, I believe, is the second May meeting.
So we have a motion on the floor. So does that need to be defeated?
Defeated or tabled?
I would move tabling this motion until administration has consulted with Municipal Affairs.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen, no debate. Those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Opposed. Oh, I'm sorry. Opposed? Opposed. Carried. Anything else from administration? Meeting adjourned at 11:57.